And
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this data indexing workshop between Telos and SubQuery. We're super excited to be here. And in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll take a look at first what is Telos for those that don't know, and then what is SubQuery. And we're going to get into how to get index blockchain data to drive the fantastic applications that all you developers are building. And we're joined by Clay, who's running things in the background for us, and Sean, who is DevRel at SubQuery. And so I'll hand it over to you, Sean. Looking forward to this.
Cool. Thank you very much for that, Nathan. And as mentioned, welcome everyone to the workshop here. Looking at the agenda on the slide here, you can see we'll take a quick look at what is Telos, we'll look at what is SubQuery. We'll then take a look at a solutions overview, the challenges developers are facing, how it can be solved. And then we'll jump into probably the most interesting part, the actual demo itself, a live demo, where we'll go and grab some data from the blockchain, from the Telos mainnet, and then we'll wrap up things with a summary at the end. So what does Telos? Let me hand this back over to Nathan to jump in here to share a little bit about what Telos is.
Yeah, for sure. So for those that don't know, just some quick facts about us. I mean, you can see that little comparison chart over there on the right. We have really unmatched throughput with half-second block times and over 15,000 transactions per second. That is proven in a StageNet environment. So those are real on-chain actions that we can actually prove those numbers by, which is something that is actually a little bit rare in the space to be able to prove your throughput. So that was really cool to have that. And then 100% uptime since 2018. And that shouldn't be a big deal in this space, but it is. If you might be paying attention to the news in the past couple of weeks, there's been some downtime, which we have not had anything like that, which is really cool. Fixed gas prices, and what that really means is that helps lend to no front running. So or other networks where you can get your transactions front run and trades lost or MEV, right? We have none of that on Telos. We call it fair, equitable for everyone to use. And we also have an EVM, which acts as our interoperability layer for our native network. And that benefits from just a massive developer community, ease of use, and ease of building on. And so that's what we have right now. Looking forward to like our side chaining. So we call it infinite scalability. So we're launching our own ZK side chain soon. That'll be first gaming focused with a lot of partners launching on that. And that'll open the door to really any type of side chain. So whether a specific app has a lot of demand for throughput, they can launch their own side chain and benefit from our throughput that we would have on our main chain, or even industry specific chains. So, if we think of, we need a DeFi chain or we need a social geared chain, that is completely possible and in our expanding ecosystem. So Telos can really be what we're having our layer 0, we're calling it, right? So it can be a network of networks and growing into just being able to accommodate any needs that you might have in this ever evolving and more demanding space. And coming soon, also, we have instant finality that'll be updating in the next few months. So that'll be final confirmations on the block in seconds. So normally that'll take around a minute, 2 minutes to get finalized on blocks, but that'll be happening a lot sooner, which is an incredible advancement. And then staying modern, right? Everybody's shifting over to Rust. So with our EVM 2.0 that'll be coming out in next couple months here and later this year, we'll be shifting completely to Rust for that as well. So that's a little snapshot of what Telos is. And yeah, happy to hand that back over to you, Sean.
Thank you so much for that, Nathan. Very interesting indeed. Sounds really exciting. Thanks again for that. Let's jump over to the next slide here, where we'll take a look at what is SubQuery, right? So had some animations going on here, but I think the Google Slides don't have that inside the StreamYard. But you can see that the developers are facing the problem of where and how to get blockchain data, right? So that's the biggest challenge, trying to power all the amazing applications, the dApps that the you guys as developers in your community are trying to make. So SubQuery is this end-to-end blockchain indexing solution trying to solve this problem. And down below, you can see we've got this open source SDK data indexer that anyone can download. You can run locally and pretty much get blockchain data from Telos in, we're talking probably seconds, minutes. And then once you've got this running on your local host, your laptop, you've got to host it somewhere, right? If you want to go live in production, it can be AWS, Google Cloud, some infrastructure provider. And that's where we've got this managed service as a additional layer here to quickly and efficiently host the actual project that you have. And then finally, we've got this decentralized marketplace, this network that, believe it or not, we're going live probably next week or in 1.5 weeks' time. We've got a Kepler mainnet already in place, but we're very close to launching a full open mainnet, and that is where we've got different network participants where you create projects and you can give it to an indexer or a node operator to run the project for you, and then they get reimbursed or rewarded with SQT tokens, and then consumers get the data that they need in a decentralized network. So a lot of people ask, why SubQuery? What are the advantages? Well, first of all, in the top right here, you can see that it's open source. As mentioned earlier, this means that the code is available for inspection, auditing, and bounties are awarded for any bugs that are found. So this helps to make the code base more secure and robust. Right. Next one, the Docker image there, is that it's easy to get working because getting up and running for the first time with a starter template can be done within minutes. And this is part of the demo that I'll be showing very shortly as well. And this is all using the Docker container. Next up, it's simple because to start indexing your own project, there's only 3 files that need to be modified before index data is returned. And I'll talk more in detail about these files as well. It's highly customizable because you can actually get the exact blockchain data you need when you specify the fields in your schema. So you don't have to grab everything, only what you need to power your application, your mobile app, your web app. And because of this, it's fast because you're only getting the data that you need. It's also feature rich, providing the ability to scaffold or pretty much create 90% of your project via an ABI contract file, for instance. There's syntax discovery, there's historical state querying, and a lots more as well. It's also real time, so you can access blockchain data as soon as they appear on the blockchain. And this is quite neat because, as Nathan mentioned earlier, with instant finality, um, the index data will appear almost immediately as well. Multi-chain. Now, this is quite a powerful feature here where this is by design, and you can get blockchain data from multiple networks all within one project, and therefore making it available via one API, kind of like this unified API approach, right? So you're not limited just to one blockchain. If you want to aggregate data, you can do so as well. And it's flexible. As mentioned, you can self-host, you can use managed services or any managed service, then also participate in our decentralized network. And then the last piece of the puzzle, the one at the top there, compatibility, it's EVM and wasn't compatible. And what this means is that you can access blockchain data across a wider range of networks, in particular, the large Ethereum ecosystem. And here's just a quick overview of the supported networks. Very large support in Polkadot. That's where we originally started out in. And then obviously EVM networks, that's constantly growing, and Cosmos as well. And a few smaller ones at the bottom that you can see, Algorand, Near, and Stellar. Okay, so where do we start? There's a starter project called Telos in our GitHub repo. And if you want to follow along, you can just do a quick Google search, github.com subquery, or scan the QR code, that'll take you there. You can look at the code, and this is what we'll be running very, very shortly. If you do want to follow along, there are some prerequisites. First of all, you'll need Node.js, and you can download this from the website here or run a brew install Node on a Mac. And most developers will probably have this already, and in particular Docker. So download Docker, brew install cast Docker. But the third step there, you'll need the SubQuery CLI, the command line interface. And you can do this by running npm or the Node Package Manager, installing globally subql/CLI. So if you are or you want to follow along, you can always pause this video later on, download what you need, and then continue. So as mentioned, there are 3 simple steps. you first want to define the shape of the data that you want to index, or the fields that you need to power your applications, as mentioned earlier. And you do this with what's called a schema file. Once you've defined the fields you need, such as block height, timestamp, to from addresses, sender, receiver, etc., you then have to configure the endpoints. Where are you getting the data from? So this is defined in what's called a manifest file, where you've got your endpoints. You can find certain filters as well. And then the last file of your concern will be transforming your data in a mappings file. And this is where you can aggregate, you can massage the data, you can transform it. You can go out to a third-party API such as CoinGecko and grab more information in order to aggregate. And that's pretty much all you have to do. So if I go over to the next slide here, the quick demo that I'll be showing live, I must say, so fingers crossed that it's good. Is to index all the transfers and approval events for the USDT token on Telos mainnet. And again, a QR code or a link to the actual code for reference as well. So with that, let's jump into a demo where I'm going to use a VS Code here. And I've got my terminal down below. Let me just expand the font size here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go subQL init. Because I've got the CLI installed already. And this is the initialization command where I give my project a name. So let's go telos_demo, hit enter. And then I get a list of drop down to pick a network family. As you can see, I've got EVM networks, Algorand networks, Cosmos, etc. So let me select EVM networks. And there's a whole bunch that I can choose from here, right? I mean, it just keeps on growing. And if I go down to T, you can see we've got startup projects for Telos mainnet and also testnet as well. So let me choose mainnet. And we're going through all of this because it helps to scaffold a lot of the files, the folder structure, instead of starting from absolute zero, which will take a lot of time. So here's the Telos starter project, and you can see the description here. This project indexes all transfers and approval events for the USD token. So hit enter. Then all of a sudden, if I go ahead and refresh this, this is the folder structure that's appeared. And let me go and enter, this is the RPC endpoint. The yellow text here is the default. So I'm going to accept the default here by hitting enter. Author, I can just accept the default here just to speed things up a bit. And then it asks if I want to generate scaffolding from an existing API contract. So if I've got a smart contract, I can actually import the API file in, and it will help create a lot of the functions ready for me. But I won't do this here, so let me go no, and then I'm ready to go. So let me first CD into my project here. And the very first thing, as anyone can probably guess, is to run npm install or even yarn install. And this is to download the dependencies. It might take about a minute or so. So while this is happening, let me open up the schema graph QR file that we talked about. And this is what it looks like, right? We've got some entities, transfers and approvals, and then we've got fields within, ID, block height, to, from, value, etc. And you can think of this as a database table, because under the covers, we're actually using Postgres, and these are actually the table names, transfers and approvals, and these fields here are the columns inside the database. This is the schema file. So next up, we talked about the endpoints, the manifest file, right? So if I look at the project.ts file, this is going to tell me where I'm getting the data from. And in particular, line 41 here, I've got the endpoint. It's mainnet.telos.net/EVM. And this is an array, which is quite neat because you can actually provide multiple endpoints for redundancy. So if one endpoint is down, having issues, automatically the project will round robin to the next endpoint. Going down further, you can see we've got a start block. So if I use a start block of 1, I'm basically indexing from the Genesis block. At the moment, this is at 304 million. And that's because the contract was actually deployed at around that time as well. It was actually deployed at 303 million, but 304 million is when the first data block appeared for our project. So I've just put it straight to that block just to save a bit of time. Otherwise, we'll be waiting around for a bit. And then down below here, you can see we've got some filters. In particular, we've got two handlers, handle transaction and handle log. This is basically the name of the function that's going to be called when the filter criteria is met. So down here, when the project hits an approved function, it's going to trigger this handle transaction. And then when a transfer of topic is found, it's going to trigger handle log. And you might be thinking, well, what does this mean? Well, let's jump into the third file in sources, mappings, mapping handler. And this is where you can see we've got the handle log function here. So what this does is it goes ahead and logs some information to the terminal, and then it grabs the ID from the transaction hash, the block height, the two from, we're basically assigning data from the blockchain into our variables, so to speak, right? And then down below, we've got the second function, handle transaction. And again, it's grabbing the transaction height, the block height from the various parameters. It is in here where you start the coding, right? This is where you transform, you can aggregate and do whatever you want before you go and save into the database. Okay, so down below, you can see in my command line, I've completed the dependencies. So next up, I want to run npm run script code gen. I want to go ahead and generate the types here, like so, and some extra folders will appear. And then I want to go and build the code. So let's go build, like so. And if I go into my file, one of my Docker files here, let me go and in my configuration file, what I want to do is actually dial down the speed, because workers, let's make 1 instead of 4. The batch size, let's make it 2, because I'm going to get errors with the endpoint because I'm smashing the endpoint and I'll be rate limited, etc. So I'm just going to slow it down a bit for development purposes. And then I will go into my package.json file, and you see the shortcuts here, right? I mean, I can run code gen, build, and the next one is start Docker. So I'm going to run that. But just wanted to point out that I could do all of this in one simple command called a dev. So instead of writing cogen build, I could just go dev. And what that will do is under the covers, run cogen build, etc. all for me. So it's basically just one line of code actually. And that is really cool for developers because, you know, we're all lazy. And after a while, you don't want to go cogen build start. You just go dev and it will do the whole thing from start to end. So before I do this, I've got Docker running in the background here. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so let me hit enter, and this is going to download, pull the images, and you're going to see this running in my environment here. There we go. So we've got the container created. There are 3 images. We've got Postgres for the database. We've got the SubQuery node. And then we've got the GraphQL engine, which is our API front end, so to speak. So when they all turn green, we should be good to go. And the next step is to jump into what we call the playground. So this is at localhost port 3000. And what I'll do is, you see in the logs, it's already indexing, fetching blocks already, which is good news. If I go to the README file, scroll down, there'll be a sample GraphQL query that I can use. So let me just copy this out. And again, all of this is to get any developer up and running really quickly, right? So let me go and new tab, paste this in, hit enter. And there you go. We've got some data coming back, which is good news. So it's working. This is live, real time. It's grabbing data. The next question that everyone always asks is, how do I know this data is correct, right? Well, what we can do is grab the ID here, transaction hash, the ID, and go to Telos scan, right, the blockchain explorer here, and I can go and do a paste, top right hand corner for the actual transaction itself, zoom in, and we'll do a quick cross check here. You can see that the amount here is 2 million. And if I compare this, you can see I've got 2 million here. And if I go and check out the block height, it's ends in 563. So 563, here we go, 563. And we'll check out maybe the spender. So it's 111 D76. And this one here, it's I've got to copy this out, and I'll paste it in here, for example. You can see it's 111 D76, right? So the various parameters, they match. And of course, we're only pulling out a subset, a few values here, but you actually define whatever values you want in order to extract it. And then from here, this is an API call. You can use this data to power the applications that you are creating. You probably might be wondering, well, why is there only one ID coming back, right? Why is there not more data if I hit play? And if you look at the actual contract itself, so what I can do is go into the manifest file. So this is the link to the actual contract here. Copy this, it's CA35, CA35. I'll just paste it in here. And if I go to check out the logs, transactions, is that the actual deployed contract? This one here. This is the actual contract itself. Here we go. So this is what we're actually indexing, this particular contract. And if I go to, you can see we've got the approve method. So this is what we're trying to extract. But if I go to the beginning, there we go. So this is the very beginning of the contract 4 months ago. You can see this is actually the block that we're extracting data from. And the next set of data for approve is at 305 million. So again, we have to wait a bit because we're only indexing in our configuration file a couple of blocks at a time. So I could speed that up, but you can see the information that we're grabbing. We've got to wait like 1 million blocks later. Okay, so let me just stop this endpoint here. Don't want to, like so. And let's jump back to the slide deck, and we'll round off the workshop. Cool, thank you. All right, so just a quick summary here. So we looked at what is Telos, we looked at what is SubQuery, and then the 3 simple steps to go ahead and create a project, right? The manifest file, the schema file, and then the mappings file. And again, in the startup project, all of this is pre-created for you, so you can download it, start running it, and then just modify it to your needs. And in that example, we indexed all the transfers and approval events for the USD token on Telos mainnet. So as mentioned briefly, the SubQuery network, this is the decentralization and tokenization of our network, which is the next big leap for SubQuery, where you can decentralize the entire application stack. And then the Kepler network is already live. That's been running for just under a year now. It's mainnet beta closed just for a subset of indexes. However, mainnet is coming February 22. That's open to everyone as well. So if you do need more information, feel free to check out the technical docs at the SubQuery website. That's academy.subquery.network. and also for Telos, some of the amazing, interesting features that Nathan mentioned at docs.telos.net. Again, thank you so much. A couple of links here to keep in touch, such as our website, Linktree, and our active Discord community as well. And I'll just hand it over finally to Nathan here, just to give a bit of how to keep in touch with Telos as well.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate that so much, Sean. That was really informative. That was awesome and very simple. So thanks again for that demo. Yeah, please join us at our Discord community as well as Telegram. I think it's t.me/hello-telos. So pop in there, check out the docs. We're all really active. So if you run into any issues, hit us up. If you run into issues on SubQuery, need some help, hit them up. We are here to support y'all and excited for everything that you guys are building. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thanks all.